Is Cameron coming? I don't think so. I think he's off somewhere.
Yeah, I don't think it's coming.
You know, what's the last time we worked on before?
I knew it was red.
Remember?
I knew it was red.
Remember that? You gotta go back a few years.
The funny thing, I knew it was red. I knew it was like a red. I could visualize the red jersey.
Actually, I'm very tired. My dog got me up at 4 and he's standing on
I'm good.
Smiles and sunshine.
the lights. My neighbor doesn't think I should
One extra.
get shutters and I think he thinks it's morning. I'm gonna go over there and ask him if he can do it.
Either that or get some black after.
Well, I mean, I have shutters. They used to be fine. So just
The dog knows. Yeah.
All right.
fall back asleep, but I don't. Somebody had to open that. We took it from the bucket. I don't mind.
You want to try? Didn't this happen at the last meeting? Bringing a knife with you this time?
So I sat in for Cameron for the budget session.
Good for you. Thank you.
I can't believe that worked. You guys feel the power in my hands right now? Oh, my goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Thank you all for being here. We will call the study session, joint session meeting to order. City Clerk, you please call the roll.
Mayor Gibbs.
Here.
Councilperson McLean.
Here.
Councilmember Miranda.
Here.
West. Chair Eichmann. Vice Chair Berlin. Commissioner Ostrom. Commissioner Burkhardt. Commissioner Ayala. Chair Ostrom. Vice Chair Waymeyer. Commissioner Stabile. Commissioner Cruikshank.
Here.
Chair Shapiro.
Here.
Vice Chair Scott Goss. Here. Commissioner Miller.
Here.
Commissioner Rasmussen. Commissioner Vibey. Thank you.
Thank you, City Clerk. We'll now do the flag salute. Commissioner Cruikshank, would you mind leading us today, please?
Of course.
Thank you.
Put your hand over your heart. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance
Very good, thank you. We'll move on to item number 1 for this evening. I believe we have some public participation, but we will take those after the presentation. So, City Manager? Yeah.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Gibbs and members of the City Council, Chair Eichmann, members of the Planning Commission, Chair Ostrom, members of the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission, and Chair Shapiro and members of the Arts Commission. I am pleased to be here this evening to provide you with an update on the city's budget and to kick off the process for the 2023-2024 annual budget. Development of the budget process is about a 6-month process, which started last month internally for us and will end at the end of June when the council adopts its recommended spending plan. Through the leadership of this city council and commissions, I'm happy to report that the city is well-positioned to continue the tradition of providing exemplary programs and services to this community for years to come. 2022 was another great year for this organization and our community, and I'm certain that 2023 will be another triumphant year for the city of Santa Clarita. As an overview, the purpose of today's meeting is to, 1, provide an update on the state of the city budget as we enter 2023, review some of the early economic indicators for the year, review some of the key issues or challenges facing the city during the next budget cycle, briefly go over estimated general fund revenues and expenditure for the next fiscal year, and finally review the budget philosophy and calendar so you are kept aware of significant dates that make up the city's budget process. In my review of the city's state of the budget these last few months, I am confident that our organization's fiscal health continues to be strong. In the last year, our organization ranked in the top 5% by the California State Auditor, with a low-risk designation and perfect scores in liquidity, general fund reserves, and in both pension and other post-employment benefit obligations. This ranking is proof that our budget philosophies and our practices of being conservative during the good times have continued to pay off. In addition to that accolade, we continue to maintain our AAA credit rating from Standard & Poor's and maintain a 20% emergency operating reserve. Commitment to conservative and lean practices have allowed us to not only survive the recent economic disruptions, but to thrive and continue to invest in our community. While most cities spent 2022 ramping their operations back up post-COVID, we continue to make extraordinary strides, not missing a beat in providing excellent customer service and expanding our service offerings as well as our new facilities. We were even able to make several noteworthy accomplishments, such as the completion of the new West Creek Inclusive Play Area, as well as the successful launch of the Celebrate Cultural Series. The Tesoro community annexation was also recently completed. The annexed area encompasses over 1,000 existing residential units and an additional 820 units in development. The transfer of the Tesoro Adobe, an additional 770 acres of the Tesoro open space. Despite the current economic conditions, which I'll address shortly, I believe we will continue to be diligent and thrive as an organization once again for the years to come. I would like to talk now about some of the early indicators forecasted for 2023 that will guide our long-term financial decisions for the organization. At the start of each year, economists throughout the world offer varying opinions about the economic forecast for both the global, national, as well as state markets. To adequately prepare for the next budget, the budget team spends a significant amount of time tracking data and the economic forecast. Although economic uncertainty seems to be the theme of 2023, consensus points to an economic slowdown. Let's take a look at some of the economic indicators that will guide our budget process. This is just a collection of the information we have as of today. Additional information continues to come in, and as we go throughout the budget process, we'll adjust accordingly. As we look at the global economy, global markets continue to be impacted by inflation, the lingering COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the Russian-Ukrainian war. The International Monetary Fund has forecasted global growth at 2.9% for 2023. This is one of the weakest growth profiles since 2001, excluding the 2008 financial crisis and the acute phase during the COVID-19 pandemic. For perspective, the global markets grew by 6% in 2021 and 3.4% in 2022. So once again, the consensus points to a global economic slowdown. On the national level, experts share more severe concerns. Following negative growth rates for the first 2 quarters in 2022, the overall growth rate for the nation came in at just 2.1%. For 2023, Kiplinger projects a national growth rate of just 0.5% if a mild recession comes to fruition, and only 1.1% if it is avoided. The UCLA Anderson forecast anticipates the national economy to slow in the first quarter, contract in the second and third, remain flat in the fourth, and not rebound until 2024. Although many experts predict a mild and brief recession, consumer resiliency will be heavily impacted by the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve continues to implement an aggressive approach to policy decisions with recurring interest rate hikes in an effort to bring down inflation. In 2022, the Federal Reserve made 7 consecutive interest rate hikes and raised rates by another 25 basis points just this last week. In an attempt of regaining control over inflation, the Federal Reserve is essentially pushing the economy into a recession, which both the long and short-term consequences remain unknown at this time. Small improvements have, however, been made with the consumer price index for the U.S. city average coming down to 6.5% for the month of December of 2022, which I believe it was 8 to 9% in December of 21. Since this was the smallest annual increase we've seen since October of 2021. As some of you may be aware, Congress reached the federal debt ceiling last month. We will continue to closely monitor Congress and the Treasury Department as it relates to the debt ceiling and any proposed federal spending cuts or slowdowns and how that affects the revenues coming to the city. On the state level, UCLA Anderson forecast predicts that a national recession would have a milder impact on California. This is largely attributed to projected growth in the construction, aerospace, and green tech industries, which have been propped up by the federal and state infrastructure and defense budgets. However, recent layoffs in the technology industry are of concern. In the last few months, big tech companies such as Google, Microsoft, Meta, and Amazon have collectively laid off more than 150,000 workers, many of whom reside in California. The unemployment rate did, however, hold steady at just 4.1% in December of '22. So once again, some confusing economic indicators. Another economic indicator that is important to follow is the health of the housing market. The state's median home price was just over $777,000 in November of '22, down 3% from the previous month and down 8% compared to the peak price of $846,000 in April of '22. Additionally, the California Association of Realtors reported that year-to-date home sales were down just over 21%. I'd now like to spend a little time discussing the state of the local economy here in Santa Clarita. Over this last year, the local economy has continued to show signs of growth. The number of businesses in our community grew to just over 8,500 in the second quarter of 2022, which is an increase of 2.9% compared to the first quarter of 2021. This directly correlates to the increase in the number of jobs in Santa Clarita. Over the past year, the number of jobs has increased by 9.1% from just over 80,000 to just over 88,000 jobs. Our current unemployment rate in Santa Clarita is 4.0%, which is just below the LA County rate of 4.5%. The city saw record-breaking location filming in 2022, with the film office reporting just under 600 film permits and just over 1,500 location film days, which generated an estimated economic impact of just over $38 million to the community. Additionally, there are several large studio projects, such as the Rye Canyon Studios, that once completed will further increase film activity in Santa Clarita. On the construction side, the Building and Safety Division issued just over 6,700 permits for over $291 million of new construction in 2022. Although plan-checked activity remains high, construction permit activity has certainly slowed, largely due to the high cost of materials and the limited labor market. As developers continue to submit plans for review, the big question remains, will they have the capital or appetite to pull permits and complete those construction projects? Again, this is just a collection of some of the information we have today, and as additional information comes in, we will adjust the budget process accordingly. As we enter the next budget cycle, I'd like all of you to be mindful of some of the key issues that are facing the organization and the community this year. Public safety. So as we all know, policy and prosecutorial changes by the district attorney continue to have a negative impact on the community. Once a criminal is arrested by our deputies, they are rarely charged or punished, leading to an uptick in smash and grab robberies, assaults, car thefts, and more. This year will bring more challenges to public safety and require even more collaboration with the Sheriff's Department and city staff to be creative in addressing crime rates so that we can maintain that safest city designation. I am hopeful with the new Los Angeles County Sheriff, Robert Luna, we will start to see some real improvements and additional resources given to the Sheriff's Department to continue with that enforcement effort. As you are aware, the homeless population in Santa Clarita and throughout Los Angeles County has increased significantly since the pandemic. The LAHSA point-in-time count took place last month and will hopefully demonstrate a more accurate picture of the local homeless population compared to previous year results. With Supervisor Catherine Barger's support, the county is reassessing Measure H, funding allocations to increase the local return. And as you may be aware, Santa Clarita as a community contributes somewhere in the neighborhood of $7 to $8 million to the county, and we receive a fraction of that back in local money spent on the homeless population. In addition to providing maintenance and repairs to the city's existing inventory of 36 parks, 17 facilities, and over 1,200 lane miles of roadways, we continue to acquire and build new facilities. This growing inventory of city parks and facilities will continue to absorb substantial resources to maintain, operate, and program for the community. Every budget decision we make balances the need for building and providing new amenities and services with the need to maintain the infrastructure we have in place. Despite the challenges faced over the years, this organization has a history of prioritizing effective strategic planning. The city is now in year 3 of the strategic plan, Santa Clarita 2025, also referred to as SC 2025. SC 2025 contains 88 specific outcomes and priorities for the community that serve as a funding guide for the next few years. We remain committed to accomplishing the goals and the objectives outlined in this plan and will minimize funding requests that deviate from it. So at this time, I'd like to walk you through some of the general fund revenues and expenditures. As you know, the general fund is our largest, most flexible revenue source. For this reason, I spent a lot of time with the budget team reviewing forecasts to make sure that ongoing revenues exceed our ongoing expenditures. The general fund revenue projections are fluid and changes will occur throughout the budget process depending on new information we receive about sales tax trends, property tax, as well as other revenue sources. For fiscal year 23-24, we project general fund revenues to total just over $139 million. This estimate represents a 2% increase when compared to the current fiscal year. As a result of anticipated slowdown of the economy, sales tax is currently projected to remain flat. For fiscal year 23-24, our general fund expenditures total just over $135 million. Public safety continues to maintain the largest general fund budget of just under $30 million. Again, these are just base numbers. These are numbers do not reflect any of the things we know we're going to have to add to the budget or already identified needs. We still have to go through the budget process over the next couple of months and work with the departments to address all of the different requests and funding needs in order to address the priorities I've discussed. So I want to remind everyone of our budget strategy and philosophy, which has been a proven method of maintaining a balanced and responsible budget. This is my favorite part of the budget process, where I get to remind everyone of the budget philosophy. I know we have a couple of new commissioners. Welcome to the meeting. So while I usually kind of go through this quicker, I think I'm going to go a little slower. So as it relates to our budget philosophy, which has guided our process for years and really is attributed to the success we have in terms of our long-term solvency. Number one is the decisions made in good times are more important than the decisions made during the bad times. Number two is we always live below our means. Number three, we run a lean organization and never overstaff to address cycles. We use conservative 5-year projections that guide all of our long-term and short-term decisions. We employ full cost recovery when setting fees. We diversify our revenue streams to make sure we're not dependent on one thing that's subject to the economy. We use one-time monies only for one-time expenses. And when in doubt, and we're looking at services, we always contract out. All right, so the next steps in the budget process will, once again, provide many opportunities to inform the council and the commissions, as well as the public, about the state of our city's finances. As you see on the slide here, the next public meetings include the Budget Subcommittee on April 24th. We have a joint budget study session on May 2nd, where I will present the actual proposed budget to all of you. The Planning Commission will receive the budget on June 6th, a public hearing before the City Council on June 13th, and finally before the Council for adoption on June 27th. So to close, while there continues to be some uncertainty about the economy heading into 2023, I don't want to overshadow the confidence I have in the organization and the resiliency of this community. Although we continue to evolve and change as an organization, the one thing that hasn't changed, in my opinion, and has been fundamental to our success is our conservative budget practices. These efficient practices will be the reason Santa Clarita will emerge stronger from these difficult years, which we've already had. Our organization continues to be one of the best in the nation, and our business practices serve as an example for other cities. I want to thank all of you for your continued leadership and of this amazing community and allowing me to present this as your city manager. That concludes my presentation on the budget process, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, City Manager. Before we move on, I'll turn it over to the City Clerk for public participation, please.
We have 2 speakers. James Doyle will be followed by Tony Maldonado, each of whom will have 3 minutes to speak on the matter of the that is listed on the agenda. Before I turn the Microphone over to the first speaker, though. Are there any other speakers in the audience who wish to speak? Right. Again, our first speaker will be James Doyle, followed by Tony Maldonado.
Good evening, everyone. As a frequent patron of the library branches, I firmly believe library resources and services provided for the community have intrinsic value exponentially greater than any monetary value could assign to them. At the heart of this system, I understand the needs of library visitors and staff are frequently changing. As such, I believe it is only appropriate that a proactive, adaptive, and inclusive approach be taken to library management, including budgeting. Also, from my time spent working at the library, I can honestly say I believe the best measure of library quality of services coexists within patron and employee satisfaction. With this in mind, I have to ask you, Mr. Striplin, why did the city decide not a single seat would be reserved for a non-employee public representation from the 3 branches? And perhaps you can reach out to the city librarian, Ms. Vonnegut, to ask, when was the last time, if ever, a public open session meeting was held by her for outreach, library planning, and needs assessments with patrons and part-time staff in the 3 unique branches? Now, I'd like to point out for the public, the majority of the library staff workforce are classified as part-time seasonal workers, and on a daily basis, they lead reference and circulation desk customer services. Essentially, everything that keeps the library running. So why is it that these workers are capped off at just under $16,000 annual salary? If you're to lead me to believe an invisible hand in the market dictates a starvation wage is sufficient for essential library workers, I ask, does the city co-sign and endorse this logic? And if so, by what justification? More importantly, if these 50-plus essential individuals were to collectively walk off tomorrow to seek gainful employment to forward the bare minimum of living standards, would the full-time staff workforce be capable of taking on the workload of the absent majority? I earnestly must ask the Library Board of Trustees, when was the last time any of you walked into one of the public library branches to gauge employee morale and public satisfaction with services? As well, will the city continue to ignore high turnover rates and cover up workplace condition complaints as a normalcy? If the management of a public library is an ever-evolving venture, wouldn't the city benefit from a holistic, full-cost analysis approach to budgeting in the library and virtually free consultation from the public and part-time staff? If anything, I consider ignoring public and part-time staff comment in library budgeting and planning by the city as a brazen and gross display of disenfranchisement, an active disregard for crucially essential part-time service library staff and minorities within the library community with a bias and exclusionary management system. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tony Maldonado. I'm a resident of Santa Clarita for 25 years. At the City Council meeting of December 13, 2022, in response to comments I made regarding the woefully low wages paid to city workers within the library and their lack of permanent classifications despite some working for the city in their same roles for the past 3 to 8 years, Dr. Striplin, you said, we don't have a classification called permatemps. Our wages are very competitive within the market here in Santa Clarita. Your statements on the record regarding pay for library PTS employees in respect to their peers at other libraries within the Los Angeles metropolitan area and the state of California is a specious argument. The truth is that Santa Clarita's wages for library PTS staff are not equivalent to the marketplace, not even close. Unlike a recent investigative report focusing on my formal complaints of city personnel misconduct, which the city manager's office is glossing over and refusing to make public, the data regarding government employee payroll records is publicly available, easily accessible, and factually accurate. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics and the California Employment Development Department, in regards to library PTS aides 2 and PTS library aide 1, the city of Santa Clarita is within the bottom 20th percentile statewide, and are amongst one of the lowest paid employees in comparison to their peers in metropolitan Los Angeles. Further, within the majority of the library systems, Within the state of California, Santa Clarita is one of the few who deny library aides regular permanent status, any paid vacation, or other benefits. Amongst its peers within the metropolitan LA area, the libraries of the city of Burbank, Glendale, Long Beach, Los Angeles, Oxnard, Thousand Oaks, and the county of Los Angeles all provide their library aides permanent status, vacation pay, and full benefits. Only the cities of Santa Clarita and Cerritos do not. We're the third largest city of Los Angeles. That's what we keep boasting. I propose that we change the classification of PTS library aides 1 and 2, as other cities have, to permanent regular employees if they have more than 2 years of employment with the city, and that PTS library aides 2 be made permanent full-time employees with equal pay and benefits to those of their peers statewide, and for library aides 1 be made permanent part-time with equal pay and benefits to those peers, equal to the peers statewide. I have forwarded a copy of this data, which I've given to the mayor, to all the city council members, and to yourself, the clerk, and to Mr. Striplin, and to everyone else included. We need to recognize we have a problem in this city. We're one of the richest cities in this city. We pretend to be something that we're not, apparently, but yet we're paying our employees pitifully wages. They're dependent upon social services, such as welfare and food stamps. Thank you.
Great, thank you. City Manager, any comments? Okay. Very good. With that, I will go ahead, if it's all right with council, I will call on each of the commissions, the chairs, and if you'd like to say some comments or any of the commissioners want to say comments, please feel free. And I'll start with the Planning Commission tonight. Chair Eichmann.
I don't know if it's on.
Oh, well, I'll talk loud because
Here.
it's green. Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to ask if there is any thoughts out there about creating a fairgrounds out here. I think it would be good for the city. I spent a lot of time in Ventura, and I look at the fairgrounds there and see the thousands of people using it for concerts, and I'm not a big fan of state fairs because I'm an animal person, but I just think that may be something that we could look for in our future. I see what's going on at, potentially what's going on at the Speedway, and it seems like that would be a much better location for a fairgrounds instead of housing and studio. But it doesn't necessarily have to be there. That's just my suggestion.
I just have a couple quick questions. First, I'd like to thank the council for inviting us to participate in this budget study session and throughout the budget process. I was just curious, last year, Ken, you talked about the fact that we were having problems with staffing and hiring people, and I was wondering, has it gotten any better? No, yeah?
If you'd like to. Yeah, it's fine.
I'd say generally speaking, it's gotten better. I think the labor market in general is there's the labor shortage. I mean, it's not just in Santa Clarita, it's a national issue.
Yeah.
We are back to most pre-pandemic levels on most programming. We struggle with some positions that are more technical in nature, but generally speaking, we've been successful in hiring people, and our turnover rate is actually not very high at all.
Okay, great. I just wanted to follow up from last year.
Hello, thank you. My comment is regarding public safety, since we are one of the safest city, and there's some increase in our but the money that we have now with the city. I would like to see some more investment in public safety. Thank you.
No real questions, Ken. Thanks for the presentation. Looking to another or new batteries. Anyway, looking forward to going through the process once again. It's always well thought out and deliberate. Thanks.
Thanks.
I would just say ditto.
There it is. Very good. Thank you, Planning Commission. Parks Commission, Chair Ostrom.
All right. I'll use my big voice. As always, amazing. Really appreciate it, and I especially especially appreciate the fact that as we want to be a little bit more conservative, that we do keep in mind aging infrastructure. I think that shows that we care, it shows that we're long-term, and I think it definitely is a great model for our city. Other than that, absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is on? Yeah. Okay. Thank you very, very much for a wonderful presentation. And in reading over the themes that you have been developed for the 5-year plan, I'm particularly interested in seeing the intergenerational programs development. I think that that is an amazing idea and would enhance all of the populations of the community.
My only comment is, first off, thank you to city and staff for the amazing playground that just opened at Tesoro area, which is terrific. And I have to tell you that I've run into several community members who have just raved about that. And the only thing I'm looking forward to now is, when do we plan our next one? And can I throw a suggestion out there that Old Orchard Park would be a great place? Just a thought. Anyway, that's all I got.
Thanks, Don. Okay, from the Arts Commission, Chair Shapiro.
Thank you for your presentation. Excuse me. I just want to share a very, very quick story and say thank you for the expenditures and the attention that have been paid to the arts. I was at an arts event, a public art temporary event at Newhall Crossings the other day, and it was a video piece that was put together by Cal Arts in a collaboration with them, and it was a pretty fantastic piece. And there was a woman who, it started to rain, who approached and ended up next to me and told me that she had recently moved. I asked her if she was there to see the piece, and she said yes, and that she followed Santa Clarita Arts, and that she had recently moved she had lived in both Silver Lake and South Pasadena, and she was not looking forward to moving to Santa Clarita, even though this was the best place for her to purchase a home, because she was feeling she would be missing out on a lot of arts. And she just wanted to tell me how pleasantly surprised she was at how much there was here, and that there was this kind of amazing and unusual piece that she was able to experience, and that there was a lot going on. And I guess that just kind of sums up to me what's happened in the years since we've started to focus on arts and have a 1% for the arts. And we did have a lot of requests for grant funding in the arts this year, a lot more than we were able to handle. And I guess I just want to say that in the realm that I'm involved with here, keep up the good work, and I think it really benefits our economy and our mental health and our well-being and our sense of place to keep up the arts. Sorry, that was so long.
Thank you, City Manager and staff, for the excellent presentation. I would love to sit in with you on a value stream mapping. I bet that'd be very fascinating in your lean system. I want to echo some of what Susan said in the sense of that, how important the arts are, and that I'm very much looking forward to, and I'm all in for what we will accomplish this year in 2023. Very grateful to be able to have a position here where I am a voice for the community as well. So it's very good that this is happening. And I know it's a lean year, but at the same time, mental health is so important, and I know for a fact that the arts plays a very key role in that, and I'm glad that I can be around to make sure that things get done in that sense of helping with the arts. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for the presentation. We are the envy of many communities in this state and in this country for our well-run city, our commitment to planning and to really getting things done for our community. I know that our city council members have have heard me say over the years that a great city has a great art scene. So are we a great city or what? And the response is always yes. So thank you for your ongoing commitment. As Chair Shapiro said, we have a lot more activity this year with our nonprofit organizations, with our grant programs. We had 35 applications, and we were able to fund 19. If all those applications had been fully funded, it would have been 180,000, and we're very glad to have the 100,000 to fund those. So it's a competitive process, and we have arts organizations that are stepping up to provide services for our community. So thank you very much for your ongoing support.
So I'm going to echo everybody else. I love coming to these because I don't understand numbers really well, but Ken always does a really good job helping me break it down. But as far as the arts go, I've been on the commission now, for a while, and I have to say, my calendar gets so full going to events that are happening all the time. And, we run into people everywhere, and it's everything from artwork to theater to dance it's just, we get a lot of thanks for supporting them. So we have a fun commission. We get to do fun stuff, but it's getting really busy. So thank you for coming.
It has been an absolute delight. This is my first year, and thank you so much for the work that everybody does and the staff of City of Santa Clarita. I am thoroughly impressed. Everything is so well managed, and I can't thank you enough for allowing me to be a part of it.
Awesome. Thank you. We keep Ken on a short leash. That's the secret here. I just like to say my own thank you to all the commissioners. I think, Patty, you hit on it very perfectly. You spend a lot of time and heart and devotion to this city with the efforts that you do and the meetings you hold and the outreach you do. It is so important. So I want to thank all of you personally for being here, and a special thank you and welcome to Ms. Stabile and Ms. Ayala for being on your commission. So welcome to you both as well. So with that, I'll move to council comments. Councilwoman McLean, you want to start since you're right next to me? Sure. There you go. Thank you.
Okay, I want to start off with the thank you to you and staff for keeping our city as good as it is with our budget. So thank you for that. And now I want to kind of talk about some of the challenges that we are facing. There's a couple that I wanted to ask you about. The first one, how do you anticipate the taking away of $2.5 billion? The governor plans to do that for transportation and infrastructure projects. Do you anticipate that that's going to create another challenge for us? That's one. And then the other one is, you mentioned that our city contributes $7 to $8 million to Measure H for the homeless and get back about $685,000. I recently asked the Board of Supervisors through our supervisor, where's the updates on the plan of the Blue Ribbon Task Force? One part of it is to better fund local governments to be able to deal more effectively with homelessness. So the answer I got back was they're behind in their, they're kind of behind in their reporting and their status. So talking about that, how do you anticipate those two things could affect our budget in the future? And then after you answer that, if you don't mind, I have one more thing I'd like to bring up.
Thank you, Councilmember McLean. I think when you look at the number billion with a B, there's always going to be an impact. The extent of that on our specific state funding or state grants, a lot of the transportation money we get either comes through Metro, which is more locally funded, not necessarily through the state, but we do have some state grants that were utilized on an annual basis. So at this point, I don't know what the impact of it is. We'll evaluate that through the budget process. But state funding typically affects things such as circulation projects and things of that nature. keeping a close eye on it. See if that happens and what happens. In regards to Measure H, I wish I had a better answer for you. I think I probably shouldn't say this, but I think that's a standard answer for the county. But I think if that recommendation does eventually make its way through, the money coming back locally here will be 100% more effectively utilized. Had that $7 to $8 million, the homeless shelter would have been built 4 or 5 years ago. Family Promise would be done by now. A lot of the things that we do so much more efficiently here at the local level would be done. And if that money, some portion of that money comes back, it'll absolutely help Bridge to Home and all the providers here to do things. We just don't, we're too far away from downtown and the attention just isn't there. Advocacy with the task force and the council continuing to beat the drum.
Thank you. I agree to that. And since the defunding of the transportation and infrastructure and on safety and such was announced, there have been some articles in the paper where Caltrans recently came out and said, we got $1 billion from the state for projects to help with infrastructure and stuff. $1 billion out of $250 billion being cut. I'm wondering if that's a coincidence that those little press releases are coming out or what. Now, Caltrans does the best they can. And being on several transportation committees and having on the boards and such, I and the other transportation agencies are putting together a coalition of letters. I think I brought that up at the last, and I believe it's going to be very effective, and we're getting good support for that. So anyway, once again, thank you for the budget, and I know we are facing these challenges. Thank you.
Councilman Miranda.
Again, I'll reiterate what everyone else has said. Thank you very much. I thank you, Ken, a lot. I thank your staff a whole lot because I know as good as you are, you wouldn't be nearly as effective without that great staff that you already have. So thank you for that. Thank you, commissioners, for being here. You're thanking us for inviting you. We thank you for getting your input and having you know and understand the things that the city has to go through and the things we have to budget for. It's not an easy task, okay? It's not easy for us. It's certainly not easy for the staff. So I was privy to a pre-meeting meeting. So you already know the questions that I have, so I don't have any questions. But I did want to comment on two things that Marcia brought up. The state could finance the rest of transportation in the
I don't mean to
state.
interrupt. It would, but they haven't. They've actually made it easier for them to get the money.
Well, then, there's work to be done. Yeah. And then on Measure H, years ago, a little less than 6 years ago, I attended a meeting downtown where it was the supervisors meeting, Catherine Barger, and she had just become the supervisor, and we were promised, not by her, but by the whole homeless committee, if you will, downtown for the county of LA. We were promised that we were going to get our fair share of Measure H dollars, okay? Now, I'm not naive enough to think that our fair share is equal to what we put in, all right? I understand, we don't have a lot of homeless here in this community, but LA does have a lot of homeless, so I understand they're going to get a lion's share of the Measure H dollars, but 90% is more than a lion's share. It's going to waste. We have to find out where the waste is going, but we know that it's going to waste. A lot of it is going to waste. I know there was an audit that was supposed to be done and reported back to us. I don't know. I'm not familiar with the dates. I'm sorry for that. But I'm anxious to hear back from that audit because That's a lot of money, and all I see when I go downtown is more and more homeless. So I just hope, and I know our hands are tied here, and I know Catherine is only one of 5 supervisors, but just from, and I'm looking at you, Joe, just from a point, there has to be something we can do to find out where that money is going. And I'm not suggesting you do it, but but I just think it's a bigger issue than we're letting it be, so to speak. So thank you.
Well, I want to thank everybody on Budget Committee and all of the staff in the room. It's always fun to get together with all of you and the commissioners. This is a city that works as a team, so I'm thanking all of you for being part of a team. You bring to the table the strength that we need, and the city manager needs that strength in order to get through good times as well as tough times. And lack of dissension is really critical. So I just have a few things to say. The first thing is, we didn't become a city because we were dependent on the county and loved what they did. We became a city because we wanted to be independent. We wanted to do our own future. We knew we could do better. We knew we had a great environment to protect. We knew we had strong constituents and people here that had vision and wanted to do things and go places and create things, and we have. There's a few things that I wanted to share with you. I went over and looked at the homeless shelter, and despite the rain and the nastiness and the mud and having to suck out water, there's steel being tied, uprights going in, rebar planted, there's foundations getting ready to pour, and it is moving forward. And I'm very proud of that. This is a collaborative effort between us and us. It's our people, our homeless, our community, and our nonprofits, and our dollars. So while I'd like to get more money out of the county, I'm not waiting, and I think we just continue to do what we do best. We have never depended on the state of California to sustain us, and it's always a battle for cities, and so we'll have to just continue what we always do, which is fight through processes. I want to say that for us, what has been our strength is creating, building, thinking ahead. I want to thank the Arts Commission because arts is very much tied to economic development. People want to go to places that are beautiful, exciting, things to do, places to go, history, museums, and art. And by the way, art can be very profitable. We can recreate it, we can sell it, we can display it, we can do all kinds of fun things with it. And it is something that makes people joyful and happy and healthier. And I want to make a note about veterans. Veterans are one of our #1 homeless problem. That and the mentally ill out there that should have been taken care of by the state for time immemorial, but they haven't done it. So our veterans are a critical group, and we know 2 things about veterans. Veterans talk to veterans, and they're very closed in because they carry great pain. And any veteran will tell you that they'd rather talk to another veteran. We know that there's 2 things that help them. One is art, so they can express and work with that. They need green spaces. They also do very well with animals, dogs, horses, things that make them feel secure and strong. So that is something we need to remember as we create programs. We need to help our veterans, and if they're homeless, well, so be that. But we need to keep moving forward. If man makes the money, money doesn't make the man. So if we have an issue, we have to solve it. If we want to ask for the state or the county to do something, great. But if they're not doing it, we still have to move ahead. So let's talk about public safety a minute. There's only one thing that's important in every single person's mind, every family member, every mother of a child, everybody who loves anybody, they want their loved one to be safe. So we really need to stay focused on safety. And that is something that's certainly lacking in LA County right now, not our sheriffs. They're doing their job. So we need to just keep working ahead to push the issues, send letters to the state, send letters to the Board of Supervisors, keep telling them that it's a problem, because the public needs to know that the only thing that stands between them and fatal issues is their police and their military. If you don't have an element that's defending public safety and nobody's supporting them to do it, everything goes in decline, and that's everything, your budgets, your beautiful buildings, your neighborhoods. So I thank you, Ken, for always focusing on public safety first. This is really important, and they need our support. One of the issues that seems to be cropping up back and forth, and people think has gone away, is CMAX. It has not gone away. Has it gone away? No. And it is devastating to our economy, to our health, to our children, to our roadways, to everything that we have. And it's something that has to be continually foremost in our mind to fight with. We need to deal with our Assemblywoman, our Senator. I know our United States Senator Dianne Feinstein has been there for us all the way through. Our Congressman is there. Everybody needs to keep in their mind that issue did not go away, and it will not go away. It's a consistent battle, and thank you very much. But it's something that would affect all of us, so we need to do that. I want to continue to attract tourism. I want to continue strongly in economic development. People think, oh, you get all that property tax. No, we're the next to the last city, I think, to be formed. New cities don't get a lot of property tax, not like old cities that get 25 to 35%. What do we get, 6%? 6%, 6 cents on a dollar. It's not enough. So shopping local is really important, and it's critical for us to understand that as a new city, we've done amazingly well. And I thank you, Ken, for your budgeting. But let's keep attracting things that create jobs, create reasons why people want to visit, and give incentive. And that is really very, very critical. And my last final thing is, and it's kind of personal, about art. I never talk about art too much. I'm not an art connoisseur. I just look at art and I think I like it or I don't like it. I'm like everybody else. People have personal things with art. But it seems to be being very well received in our city. And in Old Town, which is a heart of some of our tourism, there's a really nice wall on the side of the way station that is just begging for a piece of historical art. I know you're smiling, you know exactly what I tell you. So now that we have all these nice electronic things that we can put codes on and you can look up all these interesting things with your iPhone or your iPad or whatever thing comes out next, it'd be really nice to put the incredible piece of art there that it deserves. And that iconic painting that showed the stars in New York sitting inside the cafe. Well, we have our own stars here, and we have a cafe right there. So can we just merge those together, our cafe, our stars, off the Walk of Fame, put it into QR codes, and do that painting, and let it be one of the representations for our Western Walk of Stars? Because you keep inviting nice, famous people to go in the walk, and we don't show any of them in our art out there, so it would be really fun to do that. And I'm not an artist, so I can't tell you who or what or how, but I know that it would be an amazing thing to have. So I just wanted to mention that, tell the arts commissioners, I love you guys, and you're doing great things, so I want to continue that. Parks Commission, phenomenal job on parks, and we're loved for what we do for kids, so thank you. Planning Commission, I don't know if anybody loves you, but I will say,
Depending on the decision we make.
it depends on the decision they make.
I love
But I just want to say,
Yeah, no, I totally.
if you didn't have a great planning commission, you wouldn't have the great planning and the kind of continuity that you have in architecture and the placement of buildings and the way we live and the social structure that brings. So I love you, even if nobody else does.
Thank you.
Thank you, council members. Well, City Manager, I got a whole list of asks, but Commissioner Ostrom took all the time away, so I'm not going to get to it today. I had a couple of general questions, if I may. You'd mentioned in the presentation about, it was about 150,000 jobs that had been lost specifically in the tech market, yet we're still seeing a fairly low unemployment rate, 4.1%. Do we have any indication of where those people are going, what the jobs they're moving to, or what's stabilizing it?
It's a great question. I mean, it's many of the economic indicators are somewhat contradictory. In California, I mentioned some of the industries that were a beneficiary of jobs, the green tech industry, the I forgot what they were. There's 3 of them many of those are propped up from, like we said, the federal, state budgets, defense budgets, and things of that nature. But no, I don't have a great answer for you, no.
Okay.
I don't.
Do you want to make up one?
Nope.
Okay, good man.
People remember what I say.
And then a number that you talked about for filming, about the 38 million in estimated impact. Can I just get a little detail on where that impact comes from, where that number's coming from?
So the economic impact is a formula that's used in the industry that basically looks at the type of filming, the number of days, and applies a monetary value to it. So it's a formula that comes out of the film industry. And that can be anything from the labor markets here. It can be shopping for lumber, wood, materials, catering, things that people need and things that they use on film sets. So it's a variety of different things, but it's really a formula that is put together based on those different factors.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Council members, the comments that were made about Measure H and homelessness, I think the combination of the comments is really a perfection of what Santa Clarita talks about. Council, we talk about how so much of that money goes away that we never see, that gets lost, and we bang on that drum to get it back. Councilmember West talked about, okay, we banged on the drum, but now we still got work to do. And it's because of those principles that you have followed, that staff follows, that council puts forward, still allows us to accomplish things. We're still able to put money out there from our general fund to do the things that the money that we're already paying isn't doing. And that's, while it's heartbreaking in some ways, it's very special that we are able to do this and that we're still able to help our community. And I appreciate the council supporting continuing to fight for those dollars, to advocate for those dollars, for the exact reason, City Manager, that you said, is because we could have built these things, and we've proven that we can do these things and we can do them effectively. And so I thank you for the comments on that. And, I have from my personal world, we have an office down in Chatsworth, and we talk about public safety. If you start letting things happen, it will go downhill. And one of the examples we have is when we talk about homeless services. In one of our facilities down there are homeless individuals who are now taken to the business parks. And one of the things that happened recently is they were literally cutting down trees in the business park, throwing them into our dumpster that they took in order to build a fire to keep warm. So there's a public hazard issue from a number of reasons. But when you call and you report and you look for help and you say, look, we have a real problem, you're not getting responses. You're getting, well, there's nothing we can do. You're getting, well, we'll see what we can do. But all the while, there are serious hazards. And it's not just to property. It's not just to business. It's to these individuals as well. And when we talk about Measure H and the funding, I just want to say I really feel that the one thing that the county has proven they can do is they can take money. They haven't proven they can use it to the benefit of the people that they serve. And I hope that changes. But the reason I say that comment is because I truly do think that Santa Clarita over the years has proven that they can and that they consistently do. And they do so successfully. And that's not an accident. So I thank the council. I thank our commissioners. City Manager, I thank you and your staff for the incredible work that you all do. And all we can do is keep moving forward. All we can do is keep trying to do good things. And I look forward to the next joint budget meeting and see where things are laying out. And I look forward to the good things that we're going to continue to do in this city. So if there's any other comment? Very good. Council, thank you. Commissioners, thank you. With that, we will adjourn the meeting tonight.
Go to Soup to the Soul. Rich DeHome is having